Here's what we know about the Great Lakes Basin Transportation Company. They are a group of private investors who are planning on building a 280-mile rail bypass around the city of Chicago in order to relieve rail congestion in the city. GLB has provided notice to the Surface Transportation Board that they plan to file either for a petition of exemption from an environmental study or an application for an environmental study seeking authority to construct and operate the rail line. GLB is claiming that 25% of all freight passing through Chicago has no point of origin or destination in Chicago. In the last week, however, GLB has changed that figure to 15 to 25%. Another thing that they're talking about is that they will pick up and deliver ag products for free, as long as you pay for the switch, the rail, and own your own rail cars. Putting switches in will defeat their proposal of an 8-hour bypass around Chicago due to having to schedule stops to get these products. Patton also says that ag products are only moved in 2 ways, train or truck. I'm sorry, Illinois River is right half-hour down the road. Mississippi River is less than an hour away. Evidently, he knows nothing about barges. The article that I've seen on him, he knows nothing about farming. He's strictly a venture capitalist. If shipping by rail is the best option, why didn't some major agri-product suppliers build river terminals recently? CHS Northern Partners is constructing a river terminal right now in the south. Raincoat in LaSalle County spent millions of dollars building a river facility down there. All their plants had access to the rail. If rail was the best way to go, they would have stayed there. They decided to spend their money where it suited them best, on a river. Frank Patton has said numerous times in different articles that he isn't ruling out eminent domain. One thing that's come up time and time again in conversations with people is it's the railroad. They have eminent domain. There's not much we can do about it. If you take anything away from here tonight, remember this. Great Lakes Basin is a transportation company. They are not a rail company. Any rail company, according to legal counsel, formed after 1985, is no longer legally entitled to eminent domain. And that's something you folks need to keep at the forefront of this whole project. Like I said, they are a transportation company proposing a rail system for 6 Class 1 railroads to use and pay GLB a fee. GLB is a privately funded group of speculators who want to claim eminent domain. Unless state or federal laws changed or amended, they are not legally entitled to it. It is a case of public domain for private gain. This is why we need to act now, writing letters to the Surface Transportation Board, going to the scoping meetings, making our voices be heard, contacting your local officials, letting them know what you feel on this project. There are also some safety concerns. With trains approaching 70 miles an hour on an elevated section of track, I would think the potential for derailment would increase. It's bad enough if they're going to be running 70 pulling a bunch of tanker cars to derail to begin with. But now if you're on a 40 to 50 foot berm and they're rolling downhill, it makes it a whole lot easier for the tanker cars to come apart. One thing I kind of question with them being a limited liability corporation, who's going to be responsible for the cleanup? It's probably going to be the taxpayers, it's probably going to be the farmers. Now, granted, the freight carriers do have insurance to cover some of this, but the damage is going to last for years. They ain't going to compensate you for that. What's going to happen to the water supply that gets into the groundwater supply? A lot of people in the country rely on well water. They're going to pay for people in Schmidt or whoever to bring in water all the time? I don't think that's going to happen. One thing that's been bandied about this project is who is really behind it. Is it this group of private investors? One of the theories has been Canadian Pacific is trying to expand their market share. They're trying to buy out Norfolk Southern. CP would like to establish a transcontinental railroad. The CP and Norfolk Southern tracks don't interchange anywhere in Illinois. The closest they interchange is back in Kansas City. A bypass would help it significantly. There are two short line railroads in Chicago that do the interchanging between the major railroads in the area. Canadian Pacific owns 49%, Norfolk Southern and CSX own the rest. A merger would give CP majority ownership. If this would happen, it would take CP from the sixth largest to a size rival to Burlington Northern or Union Pacific. Something to think about when GLB said most financing would come from private partnerships. However, in recent articles, many have come out in opposition to the proposed merger, including the U.S. House Transportation and Infrastructure, UPS, FedEx, and all armed forces. For Great Lakes Basin to be claiming transparency on this project, there is a lot of secrecy and unanswered questions. We do know for a fact the Illinois Rail Commission is dead set against Great Lakes Basin putting this rail line in. But to have a group of private investors, speculators, come out and say that they know how to do the railroad business better than anybody else. Frank Patton was a software firm guy. He owned a software firm that developed some software for bank users. Never has had any experience with the rail lines. After he sold his business off, he was the president of the Chicago Union League Club in Chicago. It's basically just a playground for all the politicians up there. So this is who we're dealing with. To me, he has no right. He's not a rail company. And until he proves who's actually behind this, whether it be CP or another rail company, he cannot have that right as long as I'm still here.